Hello and welcome to Middlesex Moments, the radio show of Middlesex Community College. I'm Steve Minkler, the lead campus administrator and academic dean at the college, and your host for these programs. As always, Middlesex Moments comes to you from the radio studios in the Center for New Media, located at Middlesex Community College's main campus here at 100 Training Hill Road in Middletown. My guest today is no stranger to this program, Professor Adam Floridia from the English department. How are you, Adam?
Doing well, thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about reading, about English, and about a book club, which Adam is the facilitator for here at the college. And I think, we're recording this program in mid-January, and I think one question to ask you, Adam, that many of our listeners are intrigued to know, is that when the college has a snow day, as we did our very first day of classes this semester.
What a waste.
But what do college faculty do on a snow day?
Well, we don't get out of bed until around noon. No. I made sure to tell my students this because my first day of class was actually Thursday for Thursday classes, and I let them know that, yesterday you guys had a snow day if you had no classes. Make sure you check Blackboard because the first thing I'll do in the morning, I'll get up and I'll get the announcement that there's a snow day, just like any students. I don't get a forewarning other than, the alerts through my ComNet, which are great. And I go on and type up a nice little lesson on Blackboard, usually in the form of an announcement. I can say, hey guys, here's what you have to do today. Here's the pages you have to read. Here's what you should be prepared with for next time. So students really should check Blackboard. And I mean, that's for ground courses too. I know some ground courses probably don't use Blackboard as much as others, but that's the way to see what you're going to be held responsible for.
Okay, and Blackboard is what exactly?
Blackboard, our online learning platform. So whether it's an online class, which functions usually solely through Blackboard, or a ground class. Every ground class has a Blackboard shell. All of the faculty, I believe, are required to put our syllabi up there. My students know I post everything, so everything I hand out, additional kind of notes and stuff, they can go on and check. So it's good for them to get in the habit of doing. And even if, again, they're in a ground class that doesn't primarily use Blackboard, on a snow day, that's where you go.
Okay. Yeah. So in some ways, snow days are almost irrelevant in a college nowadays.
Yeah, because of the online. Yeah, you really can't escape. You get to work from home and have some hot cocoa and go out and play in the snow a little bit, but you're still going to be responsible for the work. That's the tough thing. I actually hate snow days in the beginning of the semester. I was really hoping that if it was a big snowstorm, it didn't go into Thursday, because the beginning of the semester is the hardest to make up as a teacher for me. Because my student, they don't know me yet. They don't know my expectations. They don't know the work. Where if we have in a month from now, we have a snow day, it'll be pretty easy. My announcement on Blackboard will pretty much be, okay, guys, stick with the syllabus. Here's what we would have done. Maybe tweak it a little bit, but stick with the syllabus. You know what is going to be expected.
Well, as you said, that all of our classes do have a Blackboard site. So if a student's taking a class on campus, there's lots of things that are put in the Blackboard system for them to use. But you can take fully online courses, and you do teach fully online courses in English. And how does that work?
It's great. I think some students have the misconception. I know when I'm advising students to sign up for classes, they'll ask about online, and they'll worry that there's a time when they have to be on there, and it's going to be almost like this, like a live conversation, or I don't know if they expect a Facebook or not a Facebook, a Skype or a FaceTime is what I was looking for. But no, everything is posted online. So I've discovered a way in PowerPoint now to record my voice, which I don't overdo too much, but the students can go on and they can go and access this lecture, and you can do online quizzes. Because we're English, I don't do a lot of quizzes, but I'll have discussion posts online. They have interactive discussions, and most of it is not real time. So for my classes, students have work due by Tuesday night at 11:59 p.m. and by Saturday at 11:59 p.m. They could do it Monday morning at 1 a.m. They could do it Wednesday afternoon at 5 p.m., whatever time works for them. So it gives them the flexibility, but there definitely are still the deadlines.
Okay, great. Well, I'll tell you what, we have to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk more with Adam Floridia a bit about online education, but also about the Middlesex Community College Book Club. So you're listening to Middlesex Moments from Middlesex Community College. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Middlesex Moments, coming to you from Middlesex Community College. I'm Steve Minkler, together here with Professor Adam Floridia from our English department. Adam, we were talking before the break about online courses and that you do teach English courses online. Mm-hmm. So you were saying that you can actually have robust conversations with students, even though you're really just typing at one another.
Yeah, I think in English class, it really is hard. I would say nigh impossible to replicate the fluidity of an interactive, engaged conversation. But we do the best we can online with the discussion board. So I'll post a question that students have to answer, and sometimes I'll require that they reply to peers. And obviously I'll chime in too. And it's really great to see sometimes when there is an engaged back and forth and the students are interacting with each other and getting involved in one another's ideas and building off them or challenging them. I will say when that does happen online, sometimes my final comment to the students is like, darn it, I wish this was a ground course because it could always be a little bit better if it were live, if it were in person. But it works. I taught a winter course that was 20 days long, I think our winter session is. I mean, and I give the students, they're doing a semester of English 102, it was 102, in 20 days. So what they would normally have 16 weeks to do, they did in 20 days. They had 2 discussion posts per day, and it was amazing. I had some brilliant students in that class. They really stepped up and did the work well, and that was another one where I was like, darn it, guys, I wish we were in person because so many of these ideas would be great to have this one come right after this one, to hear this one challenge. Right. But they got a lot out of it. I got a lot out of it, which is why I enjoy teaching it.
Now, do you ever meet the students that you have online? Do they ever come to see you on campus, or do you do anything that facilitates them meeting each other?
No, I would say occasionally. Occasionally they'll come. I'll run into them on campus or something, which is always interesting because they're like, I'm so-and-so, and I know that name. Oh, online class. Okay. But a lot of them take classes online because they can't make it to campus. They have so many other responsibilities. I'm always amazed by how many jobs people work, 1, 2 full-time jobs. They've got 2 or 3 kids to take care of. Or, I mean, I think I had a few people from out of state in my online class. So I take for granted that, they're taking classes at Middlesex, they must be local. No, one reason to take online classes is maybe you physically, geographically can't get to the campus and commute. But it is always nice when I get to meet the students that I had a strong interaction with online.
Sure. And I would think, too, one other advantage to a student is that sometimes if you're in a live class together, you don't always have time in class to let everybody have a chance to say something, or maybe somebody might be shy about saying something in front of their classmates. Do you see more people participating in an online class than you do on ground?
I think by nature, yeah, absolutely, because, by nature, they have to. That's part of their grade, because there isn't the classroom part where maybe I could give a quiz to everybody or have everybody answer something that I'm going to be the only one that read it, or I'm going to ask a question and those who choose to share. In online, it's this is your grade. We don't have an interactive discussion. So here's the question, respond, and then respond to up here. So everybody has to participate, which is nice because everybody gets his or her voice heard. And who knows, I never thought about that maybe students who tend to be a little bit more reticent, a little bit more shy in a class, maybe after taking an online class, they might not be, because they'll get positive feedback from their ideas and they'll realize that, my ideas do have value, and it's not too tough to share them with my peers. And look, other people are thinking along the same lines as I am.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. Well, another way that you try to do this, and we're speaking with Adam Floridia, professor of English here at Middlesex Community College. Another way that you personally, Adam, are trying to get people engaged around reading and about good literature is the Middlesex Community College Book Club, which you began taking over as of this past fall. And you have a lineup of books that you have selected for this semester. And maybe just let's start with, tell us how the book club works.
Sure. So at the end of every month, we will get together in Chapman Hall, our wonderful library. The librarians have been amazing facilitators as well. And we'll discuss whatever book has been chosen. For the fall semester, my first time run around with this, I picked all the books. So they were books that I really liked and hoped other people would like too. And there were some, yes, maybe one, not so much. This time we have an online component as well through goodreads.com, mm-hmm. and you can access that by going to the Middlesex site, mxcc.edu/book club, and you can find all the information to log in. And one of the polls I set up was, what book should we read next semester, so that it's not just me picking the books and telling everyone what to read. One of our faculty members suggested something that we haven't read since high school, and we want to reread, and something that we might hear a different take on, or have a different experience with reading as adults. So our first book for January, I believe it's next Wednesday, January 31st at 12:30, we're going to discuss One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest by Ken Kesey. I have not read that book in 10, 15 years maybe, but I do remember it being one of my absolute favorites, and I have got to get on reading that because it's next week.
Well, it's also an Academy Award-winning film that was made in the 1970s starring Jack Nicholson, and I think this brings up something that we've debated here at the college. If you've watched a film or even listened to an audiobook, is that the same as actually reading the book? And what are your thoughts on that?
I mentioned to you earlier, I have this debate with one of my colleagues in the English office who swears by audiobooks, and I know a lot of people do. And maybe it's just that I haven't gotten into that. So if I don't do it, then I don't I don't like it. I always tease her and say, you can't say you read the book. You listened to the book. You didn't read the book. And she argues that no, it's the same thing. And I don't know. I don't think anyone would argue that watching a movie is the same as reading a book. I think that's logical. To me, it's almost the same thing applies to listening to it. I think reading involves it involves more mental skills, not skills, more mental focus, I guess. I mean, yes, you have to focus on listening, but to actually read and go across the words, and I can't read without a pen in my hand, so I'm annotating and underlining and taking little notes all along. And you don't have to do that to read, but I think there's something with reading the page and having your imagination work as you read the words. I don't know. And this is why I probably lose this argument, because as you can see right now, I can't explain it well. I just I think what I think. And I haven't tried an audiobook, so I'm not a good judge. And nothing against people who use audiobooks. I just like to tease her.
Well, I think one thing, too, is that an audiobook, you're really dependent on the quality of the actor who is reading the book. And then sometimes that actually gets stuck in your head. I mean, you will always hear that person's voice when you think of that book. Yeah,
and I've heard the argument, too, that the cast that they pick to read the characters in the book is amazing and really helped me get a sense of who the characters were, or helped kind of flesh the plot out or develop certain themes. Like, yeah, I guess that would be great, because I am limited to who or what I imagine in my perspective of the character, so it might be different. It might be different if I heard things pronounced a different way, heard them read by a different voice.
Yes. Well, and sort of a revival of something that's been lost in our culture, which is radio drama. You know, we don't listen to the radio as they did 60, 70 years ago before television, and that works of literature were often performed as radio dramas. And I think this maybe harkens back to that in some ways. If you think of casting a whole bunch of actors to perform a book, it's kind of intriguing to me anyway. So our first book club read is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which we'll be discussing January 31st at 12:30 in the library at our main campus here at Middlesex Community College. Open to anybody?
Open to anybody, even if you haven't read the book. So don't think I haven't read the book, and so I'm not going to come. If you're interested in listening, and I mean, there might be some spoilers, but might make you inspired to go and pick up the book and give it a shot. Or if you read a couple chapters and you haven't finished, as I said, I have read it a long time ago. I haven't started it yet. I will absolutely have it reread by Wednesday. Mm-hmm. My problem right now is over winter break, I started a series, Stephen King. I've never read Stephen King before, and I started The Dark Tower, which is 7 books. Each one's about 1,000 pages. But I'm on the 7th book, so how do I stop reading that? It's like I'm on page 200, so I don't think I'm going to finish that and then have time to go on to Cuckoo's Nest. So I'll have to pause my Dark Tower.
So as you said before, Cuckoo's Nest was a selection based on one of the book club members' recommendations, that we pick a book that we haven't read in a long time, perhaps not even since high school. So what are some of your memories of the main themes that come out of Cuckoo's Nest, and why does that make that such a good read?
You know, it's probably sad as we mentioned movies. I can't picture, and I'm sure as I read it, I won't be able to picture anyone but Jack Nicholson in the titular role, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I think he did a great job. Thematically, I think of sanity versus insanity and how that applies to regular society, and are those who conform and follow certain rules the ones who are actually not necessarily insane, but I guess, yeah. And it's part of the counterculture movement, so just because you follow a different kind of march to the beat of your own drum, how is that okay? Or is it the people who are part of the typical everyday rat race, the ones who actually are insane?
Right. Well, I think the book was important too, because it's partially not really a documentary, but it is meant to document how patients at a mental institution were treated in those days.
Yeah.
And for me, I think the intriguing thing is, too, the film is somewhat objective, and I've watched the film first, but what surprised me when I read the book is the voice in the book is Chief, who's a character who is largely mute for the entire story. So, that someone who is not prone to speaking has a lot to say.
Yeah, Chief Broom. And that's something I think we'll get into during the discussion, too, is the question of narrative fidelity. So whenever you have a narrator who is a character in the story, if it's a first-person narrator, you question, well, who is that character? What lens are we getting this story through? So we know I don't remember if we find out who the narrator is right in the beginning, but now we know.
Spoiler.
I don't think it is. We know that the narrator is in an insane asylum. So how do you judge what he's telling you? And I just, one thing that I remember in the book is there were certain scenes where everything like filled up with fog. And I think I remember when I first read those confused me. And then I remembered, oh, wait, this is the perception of this particular character. So we're only seeing things from this point of view.
Right. Okay, great. Well, it's time for a quick break. When we come back, more with Adam Floridia from the Middlesex Community College English Department on the book club that we have here at the college. So please stay tuned. Welcome back to Middlesex Moments, coming to you from Middlesex Community College. This is Steve Minkler, here together with Adam Floridia, professor in the English department here at the college. And we've been talking about the Middlesex Community College Book Club, which Adam facilitates here on campus. And we have book club meetings once a month on Wednesdays. Is that right?
Yeah, I was just looking at the schedule, and turns out this semester, everyone is on a Wednesday. It is the last Wednesday of the month. We go from about 12:30 to about 1:15. Of course, if anyone ever wants to stay later and talk books, I will always be happy to stay and talk books. It's in the Gene Burt Smith Library. And the last semester was great. We had a nice little group of regulars. This semester, I hope more students come. I hope more faculty come, community members, whoever wants to come and talk about books. And I mentioned in an earlier session that we have an online component, which isn't utilized because, the 5 or 6 people who have been involved in person, so not much online. But one of the polls I posted was about books to read next semester, and someone also suggested that especially for January, if we didn't do a particular book, we just have that be a chance to talk about whatever books anyone might have read. Mm-hmm. And I love that idea. When I was originally kind of percolating ideas on how to rejuvenate the book club that was once here, I was thinking, well, what if we did once a month where we have a book that we're all reading, and then another time a month where everyone comes and just talks about whatever books they're reading. And who knows, maybe down the road, if this grows and that's something people want to do, that's great. But for now, I do absolutely think that it's a great time. I just love having people get together and talk about reading, talk about books. So while we're doing One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest on Wednesday, January 31st, I absolutely encourage anyone who's read anything over break, I think we'll try to maybe have half an hour or so discussion on the book selected, and then another 15 minutes for people just to go around and share and say, hey, I read this. I already crowbarred my Dark Tower promo into the previous session, so I'll be talking about my Dark Tower reads after we wrap up Cuckoo's Nest.
Okay. Well, what are some of the books that you have scheduled for the rest of the semester?
So in February, we're going to read Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. In March, we're going to read The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. And in April, we're going to read Wonder by R.J. Palacio. That's actually I was going to say One Book, One Middletown. I think it's One Book on the Riverbend now. It's the community book picked by local librarians and community members. So it's a great way that the college can be part of the community, and anyone who's reading that, know that other members of the community are going to be reading that book. And I think the local libraries usually have events around that. So that should be an exciting time too.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about each book. We talked about Cuckoo's Nest earlier in our show, but in February, on February 28th, we'll be discussing Born a Crime. Give us kind of the quick summary of what that book's about.
I'm excited for that one, particularly because this will be the only book club selection that I haven't read yet.
Okay.
So I will wait till February to read that. It is the autobiography of Trevor Noah. He was born in South Africa. He's now, you might know him as the host of The Daily Show. He took over for Jon Stewart. It's his coming-of-age tale. And if my memory serves me correctly, the title Born a Crime refers to him. I believe he has a white father and an African-American mother, and it was literally illegal for them to get together and have a child, so his birth was a crime.
Right, at that time, that's right. So and to see how he now has a position where he can make all sorts of social commentary and be able to discuss the important topics of the day. It's kind of a powerful upbringing that he had to get to this point.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one, and not only because I haven't read it, but to hear his kind of, I see where he is today. Yes, how did he get there, and from such humble beginnings? I think it'll be funny, just because of the nature of Trevor Noah, inspiring, and just an interesting tale.
Cool. And then in March, on March 28th, we'll be discussing The Handmaid's Tale, and just kind of walk us through a little bit of what that book's about.
Dystopian future, women's bodies are property, reading and the power of language is everything. Reading, I believe, is forbidden. That's one, again, I haven't read for about 10 or 15 years, but remember really liking it. And I thought that one would also be timely. I think it was it yesterday or the day before the Women's March happened again? Mm-hmm. And as I saw clips from that, I actually saw a number of women dressed in the handmaid's outfit.
Wow.
A lot of people are probably, even if they weren't familiar with the book before, it's a TV series. It's a popular show that I refuse to watch until I reread the book, and then I actually look forward to jumping into the show.
Well, that gets back to our earlier discussion about have you read a book when you've watched the film? Or
Exactly.
Right.
And I'm one of those who I will, if ever possible, I will not watch the film before reading the book, which is actually why, here's my what I'm constantly thinking about, because this is what I'm reading now, The Dark Tower. I was going to get that out of Redbox over the break and watch it. Like, I haven't read those yet. Let me pick up the book. And then lo and behold, it's about, a 5,000, 6,000 page series. So.
And our April book selection, which the book club will be meeting on Wednesday, April 25th, is Wonder.
And like I said, that's one book on the Riverbend selection. It tells the story of Augie Pullman, who was born with a facial deformity, prevented him from going to a mainstream school. And this is another one I'm excited to read because I haven't read it yet. I think it's going to be great. I'm sure everyone should be able to relate to feeling like an outsider for whether it's a physical deformity, you just feel different, you don't feel like you fit in. So I think that one should be a good, relatable read to everyone.
So one thing I noticed in the book selections for the spring semester, you just said in your own words, something about being an outcast or being on the outside of what's happening. And I kind of see that theme running through the 4 books that have been selected.
That's great. We can edit this out and say that I planned that too, but I wish I had planned that. I did not notice that, but that really is a powerful theme throughout.
Okay.
Now, you would make a great addition to the book club. You should come and mention that.
Well, I would love to do that. So again, for our listeners, this is the last Wednesday of each month at 12:30 in the library at Middlesex Community College on our main campus in Middletown. A book club led by Adam Floridia in our English department. Well, yeah, and I picked that up actually just by your descriptions of the books and what I do know of them myself too. But is that something that you might plan in the future, is to deliberately pick a theme or a topic that you could see through for a semester?
I'm torn because I worry that if I did it consciously, somehow I would bodge it and I would be forcing it. And what I would worry that, well, what if I picked something that someone's not everyone is into, and I picked something that resonates with my own interests, and then nobody else really cares, and it's now they're stuck reading 3 or 4 books all about, well, Adam finds that theme really interesting, but nobody else really does. So I kind of like that it happened by chance here.
Well, right, and I think it would prevent that from happening. I just happen to notice that, but maybe that will come up in discussion as part of the book club. What
one of our book club members mentioned to me last semester was something I had not noticed at all that I was much more conscious of with this selection. She said, last semester you picked all white male authors, and I had not even thought about that. It wasn't deliberate, intentional, or unintentional. It was David Foster Wallace, Kurt Vonnegut, and George Saunders. I just picked books and authors that I really, really liked. So this semester I made a much more conscious decision to try to have some diversity in there too, especially with Margaret Atwood, Trevor Noah. So if I pick just what I like, it might appeal to just me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, one of the things we've talked about in today and in previous appearances on this show is just how much you like to instill the love of reading in people. And I know for me, sometimes reading can be a little tricky because, we're all busy people and you don't always have time to, pick up a book and pick up where you left off. And sometimes even for me, I almost, because of the way that your brain works trying to imagine the story, I sometimes find myself reading at a fairly slow pace. So what would you say to a person who feels completely discouraged about reading, even though they'd like to read it, whether it's time or the pace of their reading or feeling that they're not getting a book? Reading
slowly is good. This is what I'm going to do this lesson on tomorrow, actually, with my English 101 class. We're going to talk about reading, writing, and thinking, and how my belief is that the 3 are inextricably linked. To be a good writer, you should be a good reader and a good thinker. And we talk about those 3 things, and I ask them, well, what do you think about what are some of your problems with reading? And being slow always comes up. And I ask them, do they think I'm a slow reader or a fast reader? I'm a very slow reader. I read books really slowly, especially because I cannot read without a pen in my hand to underline and annotate. These aren't scholarly English professor notes. Most of them are ha ha or he's a jerk. Like just little things in the margin to track what I'm thinking. What's nice about that is it forces me to be in the world of the book, to pay attention to the book, so that I can't read 20 pages and then go, oh, crap, what the heck did I just read? Because my mind was on my kids and what I'm going to do this weekend and all the other stress I have in my life. I also don't need a bookmark because I can just go back and find the pages. And something actually in my online, going back to online conversation we had at the outset of this, was how online classes work. And I have my English 102 students introduce themselves, and one question I ask is, and by the way, rate your enjoyment of reading 1 to 5 stars. And it's interesting to see so many students, I give it a 3. I like to read, but only when I find a book, or I like to read, but not something that's assigned to me. And I ended up doing this, pretty much the same comment to most of them was, that really is one of the, I think, the sad ironies of formal education, is that it often leaves so little time to read for pleasure, because you have to read what is assigned and get through that. So I hope that doesn't discourage people from reading. And even if they don't necessarily enjoy what they're reading for classes, that doesn't mean that all reading is bad. You find what you like, and sooner or later you'll have more time to do that. I would guess most people have a lot more time than they think they do. If they ever measured the amount of time they spend on their phones, or the amount of time they spend in front of the TV or other electronic devices, they could probably read quite a few novels in that time of their own choosing, as quickly or as slowly as they want, as literary or as, I don't want to say trashy, as non-literary as they want. You read what excites you.
Okay. So our main message today to our listeners is go out and read something. And we hope you'll read some of the books that we've selected for the Middlesex Community College Book Club. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which we'll be discussing Wednesday, January 31st at 12:30. Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, Wednesday, February 28th. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, March 28th. And Wonder by R.J. Palacio on Wednesday, April 25th, all at 12:30 here in the library at Middlesex Community College's main campus. And I want to thank Professor Adam Floridia from the English Department for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. I always leave these really excited. Anytime talking about books gets me excited.
Well, me too. And I want to thank you, our listening audience, for tuning in to Middlesex Moments, again, coming to you from Middlesex Community College, where we invite you to visit us anytime at our main campus at 100 Training Hill Road here in the city of Middletown. Our new location in Meriden at Platt High School, where we have afternoon and evening courses 4 days a week. It's a really exciting program that we have working in partnership with the Meriden Public School System. And certainly you can visit us 24/7 online at mxcc.edu. So we hope to see you soon, and tune in to Middlesex Moments next time here on this station. Thanks very much.